Have you ever found yourself pondering this peculiar question in the quiet of the night, when the world is still and your thoughts become more introspective? It's the kind of question that often arises when we experience the loss of someone close to us, a question about what happens to us beyond the physical. At first glance, this question may seem strange, even unanswerable. But it's one that has been asked for centuries. Is the soul something physical, something we could measure, or is it entirely abstract? Could it have weight? Could it even be quantified? In 1907, a Massachusetts doctor named Duncan McDougall decided to answer this age-old query with a daring and controversial experiment. He believed that if the soul truly existed, it must possess mass, and if it left the body, there would be a measurable change. So, what did he do? He weighed people at the precise moment of death. The 21 grams experiment. Dr. McDougall's experiment became legendary. His method was simple yet unconventional. He placed dying patients on an industrial-sized scale, waiting for them to pass away. As each person took their last breath, he recorded their weight. After conducting several cases, McDougall concluded that, on average, people lost 21 grams at the moment of death. This small yet significant number became famous, giving birth to the idea that the soul might weigh exactly 21 grams. But there was a catch. The results were inconsistent. In some cases, there was no change in weight at all. In others, the scale fluctuated unpredictably. Does that mean the entire experiment was flawed? Not necessarily. While many modern scientists dismiss McDougall's findings as flawed or inconclusive, it doesn't mean the soul's weight can be definitively ruled out. In fact, with today's advanced technology and more accurate digital scales, perhaps this experiment could be revisited, yielding new results. So, even though McDougall's methods were criticized, his willingness to try to measure the unmeasurable is, in itself, fascinating. Other experiments on the soul's weight. McDougall's study is often regarded as the most famous, but it certainly wasn't the only attempt to measure the soul's weight. In the 1980s, Soviet scientist Konstantin Kurokov explored this concept further using bioelectrographic imaging technology. His experiment involved photographing a person at the moment of death using a specialized device that captured changes in energy fields around the body. Kurokov claimed to have observed what he described as the soul leaving the body through subtle energy patterns. He proposed that this energy could represent a form of weight. While the analogy might not be perfect, it's an interesting thought. Could a charged battery actually weigh more than a discharged one? Could something similar happen to the human body when it dies and the soul supposedly departs? If energy does indeed leave the body at death, could that energy have mass? Moreover, this wasn't the only experiment of its kind. In Japan, researchers used sensitive thermal imaging to investigate the potential for the soul to release energy in the form of heat upon death. Some of their experiments suggested a small burst of heat around the head immediately after death. Skeptics quickly dismissed this as part of the body's natural cooling process, but the thermal images certainly sparked curiosity, leaving many to wonder if there's more to the story than meets the eye. The unanswered questions. Despite the centuries of speculation, the question of whether the soul weighs anything, or even exists in a measurable form, remains one of the great mysteries. These experiments, though intriguing, have not provided conclusive proof either way. Yet, they have opened a door to a fascinating field of exploration that continues to capture the imagination. Perhaps the soul is beyond the realm of science and measurement, something entirely intangible that resists our attempts to quantify it. Or perhaps, in the future, advances in technology will allow us to measure the unmeasurable, providing answers to questions that have lingered in the human mind for millennia. As we continue to search for understanding, one thing remains clear: the quest to understand the soul is far from over. Is there a scientific basis? At its most fundamental level, the human body is made of atoms. Every aspect of our physical being can be measured, scanned, and analyzed down to its smallest components. But when it comes to the soul, things become murky. No microscope, MRI, or X-ray has ever detected a soul, and let's be honest, these instruments were never designed to detect something as elusive as the soul. But here's the thing, maybe one day, far in the future, let's say 1,000 years from now, science will have evolved to the point where we can visualize the soul. Maybe we'll be able to track where it goes after death, just as we can track the flow of blood or electrical impulses in the body. Until that time, however, we're left with theories. One prominent theory suggests that the soul might exist as a form of energy. Energy, according to the law of conservation, never simply disappears. It transforms, changing into something else, heat, light, or perhaps something we haven't yet conceived of. If the soul is pure energy, it wouldn't vanish when we die, but rather shift into a different form. This brings a fascinating idea into play: could the soul's energy be something we just haven't learned to detect yet? Physicists, too, have spent considerable time pondering the nature of consciousness, which is often seen as synonymous with the soul. Some theories propose that consciousness arises from quantum processes within the brain. But does this mean that consciousness is the soul? That's the million-dollar question, and one to which we don't yet have an answer. In another intriguing theory, some scientists suggest that the soul might be connected to dark matter, the invisible substance that makes up most of the universe. If the soul is a form of dark matter, it could explain why we've never been able to measure it directly. Hidden in plain sight, perhaps. The connection between soul and consciousness. The question must be asked again: could the soul and consciousness be one and the same? Some philosophers and neuroscientists believe so. Consciousness, our sense of self, our thoughts, our awareness, remains one of the greatest mysteries of life. Despite extensive research, we still don't fully understand it. In fact, we struggle to even define what consciousness truly is. One leading hypothesis suggests that consciousness arises from quantum phenomena within the brain's microtubules. This theory, called orchestra or orchestrated objective reduction, was proposed by physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. They believe that consciousness isn't just a byproduct of neural activity, it could be a fundamental property of the universe itself, much like space and time. If this theory holds any weight, it could mean that the soul is a manifestation of this quantum consciousness. And if quantum consciousness can exist beyond the body, it could continue to exist after death. This would mean that the soul, or consciousness, is not bound by the limitations of the physical body. Is the body producing DMT at death? One particularly fascinating theory suggests that at the moment of death, the brain releases a flood of dimethyltryptamine, DMT, a powerful psychedelic compound. This compound naturally occurs in small amounts within the brain, but it's believed to be produced in larger quantities during death. The pineal gland, a small organ deep in the brain, is often linked to the production of DMT, and some researchers speculate that this gland releases an intense burst of DMT during death. This could trigger vivid, dream-like visions, similar to those reported by people who have used DMT or experienced near-death experiences, NDEs. In fact, many people who have had NDEs describe encounters with otherworldly beings, surreal landscapes, and sensations that mirror what some DMT users report. This has led to the hypothesis that the sensation of the soul leaving the body could be a result of the brain flooding with DMT, making the experience feel like the consciousness is traveling to another realm. Near-death experiences, a window into the soul? Thousands of people around the globe have shared the remarkable, often surreal accounts of near-death experiences, NDEs, those strange, otherworldly episodes that occur when a person is either clinically dead or on the brink of death. Many NDE survivors report floating above their bodies, observing bright lights, or even being greeted by loved ones who have passed away. Others describe traveling through dark tunnels, experiencing a profound sense of peace, or encountering mysterious, sometimes divine, beings. One famous case involves a woman named Pam Reynolds. During a complex brain surgery, doctors lowered her body temperature and completely stopped her heart and brain activity, effectively rendering her clinically dead. Yet, after the procedure, Pam astonished everyone by recalling vivid details of the operation, things she could never have known at the time. She described conversations between surgeons, the exact instruments used, and events that took place while she was unconscious. In another gripping case, a man who drowned for over 20 minutes reported meeting his deceased grandfather in a vast, glowing field. When revived, he was able to provide accurate details about a family secret that only his grandfather had known. These experiences defy conventional explanations. Could they offer proof of the soul's existence? While we don't have answers, it certainly opens a fascinating window into the mystery of what might happen after death. Religious views on the soul. Beyond science, nearly every major religion embraces the concept of the soul. But what the soul looks like or where it goes is a matter of much debate. Christianity and Islam agree that the soul is eternal, departing the body at death and transitioning to an afterlife, whether it be heaven, hell, or another divine realm. Hinduism and Buddhism, however, teach that the soul reincarnates, passing through many lifetimes until it attains enlightenment or liberation. Animistic traditions suggest that the soul isn't solely a human trait. Animals, trees, rivers, and even mountains can possess souls of their own. In Islam, the soul journeys to an afterlife, awaiting judgment. Interestingly, some indigenous cultures believe that the soul can split, a part remains with the living while another part moves on to a spiritual realm. Where could the soul go after death? Religious teachings offer a variety of interpretations, but let's dive deeper into some more speculative possibilities. Some physicists suggest the soul could travel to parallel universes, drifting between dimensions we're currently incapable of perceiving. Others propose that the soul might merge with the very fabric of space-time itself, existing as pure energy or consciousness, an eternal echo in the cosmos. Another mind-bending theory is that the soul could be absorbed into black holes, entering realms of existence so far beyond our understanding that we can barely conceive of them. Perhaps it is part of a universal consciousness, merging with the minds of those who have come before us, creating an interconnected network of souls across time and space. Some have even suggested that the soul could reincarnate not as a human, but as something entirely different, a star, a plant, or another form of life. And what if the soul rides waves of cosmic energy, reverberating through the radiation left behind by the Big Bang? If time itself is an illusion, could the soul skip across its fabric, traveling forward or backward, creating endless loops of experience? The unanswered question. In the end, the question remains, where does the soul go after death? It's a mystery that continues to captivate the human imagination. Whether it is bound by spiritual beliefs, grounded in science, or perhaps a combination of both, one thing is certain: our search for answers will likely continue for centuries to come. What could the soul be made of? If the soul truly exists, what is it made of? This is a question that has puzzled humans for millennia. Could it be composed of some form of exotic matter, something that doesn't interact with regular physical matter in the way we expect? Perhaps it exists in a realm beyond our understanding, not bound by the same laws of physics that govern the tangible world we experience every day. One theory suggests the soul could be tied to electromagnetic fields, vibrating at frequencies that current technology has yet to detect. Imagine, for a moment, that the soul operates at a frequency beyond our reach, an energy field that slips through our instruments like a ghost in the machine. Yet another theory proposes that the soul could simply be consciousness itself, something more fundamental than the particles that make up matter, a state of pure awareness that transcends the physical. If consciousness is the essence of what makes us human, could the soul be a manifestation of that? Perhaps it's not something material at all but an intangible force, a spark of existence that lives independently of physical laws. This might explain why no scientific instrument has ever detected it. The soul isn't something that can be touched or weighed, measured, or quantified. It is an essence that exists outside the realm of the material world. So, what does this all mean? As human beings, we truly know so little about the soul, or even about consciousness itself. We don't know if the soul and consciousness are one and the same. We can't say with certainty whether the soul can be measured or even if it's a form of energy. In fact, we don't know anything for sure. In a strange twist, perhaps animals, or even plants, understand more about this topic than we do. Maybe, in our modern world, we've lost touch with our true selves, our spiritual essence, and the deep connection we once had to the world around us. It's evident that we've grown disconnected from nature. Perhaps ancient civilizations and tribes were onto something when they spoke so confidently of the soul. Maybe they knew something we've forgotten, that the soul exists, and perhaps they even understood exactly where it goes after death. For now, the question remains unanswered, and maybe that's part of the mystery's allure. After all, not everything in life, or death, needs to be solved. The beauty of the unknown is what keeps us searching, keeps us wondering. And maybe, in the grand scheme of things, it's best that way. If we were to ever truly know where the soul goes, we might lose our minds altogether, overwhelmed by the revelation. On the other hand, knowing that the essence of a person, their soul, is destined for a peaceful, meaningful journey could bring comfort. It might be the antidote to all the suffering we face, knowing that in the end, everything will be okay. For now, we can only wonder. Or, to put it another way, for now, our souls can only wonder, do we even exist as souls? Do we travel somewhere else? Or do we transform into some other kind of energy entirely?